Hello, 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 and welcome to Zipadee Doo Dah Disney, the podcast where we help you make the most of your Disney vacation using tips from experienced people just like you. So sit tight and let's get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome to episode 9 of Zipadee Doo Dah Disney. I'm your host, Eric Frenchman, and this episode's titled Eric's Epcot Eating Experiences. Originally, when I started planning out my podcast episodes, I thought Epcot would be a two-part series. But as I'm writing this out right now, I think this podcast is going to stretch into two full ones. I like to keep my podcasts around 15, 20 minutes for my friends and family, so you don't have to listen to me for hours on end. But I do appreciate it. The original Epcot episode I did was episode 6, I believe, and it was called Fast Passing Through Future World. So this is a continuation of that episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, go back and give a listen, because I tell you how to fast pass through Epcot and everything you need to do. And this is its companion 1 or 2 part podcast episode. And this is going to be about all the places I like to eat at Epcot and shop. So there's a lot of information. As I said, it might go to 2 podcasts. I'm not really sure. So sit tight. Thanks for listening, and let's go on that ride. Epcot for me is the Jekyll and Hyde of eating at Walt Disney World Resorts in Florida. You have the super delicious World Showcase, and then you have what I consider almost the food desert of Future World, which I like to call the front of the park. There are going to be big changes coming to Future World in the front of Epcot. I'm not going to go into those details here because I like to tell you what I like to do when I go to Epcot, and I don't know what I'm going to do when those changes come. There is a new restaurant that should be open winter of 2020. It's a space-themed restaurant that's going to be in Future World. I'm pretty excited. Again, I'm not going to tell you what to do about that other than I like trying new restaurants at Disney World. So I'm not really going to talk about it too much. But here's how this episode is going to go. I'm going to briefly talk about the festivals that occur at Epcot. I'm not going to go into a ton of details because there's just so much information, and the festivals are so big. I mean, I could literally do probably 2 podcasts on each one. But I'll give you a brief overview. Then I'm going to talk about Future World and where you're going to eat or try and avoid eating if at all possible. The reason I'm going to start in Future World is because the World Showcase opens later in the day at 11 a.m. typically. And so if you're going to go to Epcot and you're looking for food, you're obviously going to be in Future World. And then finally, I'm going to talk about all the restaurants in the World Showcase. I am not going to talk about restaurants I haven't been to, because that wouldn't be fair. I don't know what's there. I don't know what they're like. I'll tell you why I've avoided them if I have a reason. But anyway, so the setup for this episode is simple. We're going to talk about the festivals. Then we're going to talk about eating or avoiding eating in Future World. And then we're going to talk about World Showcase. There are 2 main festivals that run at Epcot during the year. The first is the International Food and Wine Festival. And then the next one is the Flower and Garden Festival. Both have similar feels where they have special events, demonstrations, music, different food, kiosks where you could buy special items that are only available at that time of year. The Food and Wine Festival, where we're going to start, usually runs from the end of August to the end of November. And let me tell you, it's a blast. I'm going back for the first time in a number of years. I'm actually leaving about 10 days from this recording. It's super crowded on weekends, so keep that in mind because the locals love eating there. And once you try the International Food and Wine Festival Epcot, you will too. You get to wander around, drinking and eating new foods. There are cooking demonstrations. Sometimes there are even, famous personalities from the Food Network or Cooking Channel or big restaurants where they tell you how to bake or how to cook certain things and wine pairings. It's a blast. They also have an Eat to the Beat concert series, which is over by America. There's an outdoor stage where they bring in bands. Usually the bands are either up and coming, people that would be featured, bands that would be featured on Disney, or even some bands that are, let's say, in the twilight of their career. But you can usually catch them. It's a great time. It's a blast. The idea behind it is the World Showcase expands beyond the core countries with additional marketplaces and areas to eat beyond the standard World Showcase countries. They're also organized in a geographic area. So, for example, in England, you'll have Ireland and you'll have Scotland, and near China, you'll have Thailand and Korea. You get the general idea. At these kiosks, you get to have snack-sized portions plus alcohol pairings. And that's right, I said snacks. So you could use your Disney dining plan snacks at these kiosks. Also, always check before you go, but you should be able to convert your quick service meals or counter service meals into 3 snacks that then you can use at the kiosks at the International Food and Wine Festival. In order to do that, you got to go to guest relations. There's some rules around. You got to use them 3 at a time, or you could, if you get it done right, you can use them 3 separate times. There's some rules. Definitely check at your hotel or at guest relations. Basically, the idea is you get to eat and drink your way around the World Showcase. Again, it's usually late summer and into fall. The Flower Festival, hint, 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 works the same way, but it's in the springtime. And instead of having a food focus, it's a flower and garden focus, hence the name. Same kind of idea. And there's plant and gardening demonstrations, special topiaries that you get that are grown throughout the year, and you get to take your pictures. There's tons and tons of flowers. It's beautiful. It usually runs from the beginning of March through the end of May. There are also different food marketplaces and kiosks. And again, the same idea. You can use your Disney dining plan snacks or convert your quick service or counter service meals into more snacks. It's a beautiful time to go. Basically, between those 2 festivals, that takes up about half the year. Throw in Christmas and New Year's, which has its own kiosks and special events and concert series. And you almost have 2/3 of the year covered, where the weekends are going to be super busy. It's a blast. If you can set up your Disney vacation around those 2 times a year, I highly recommend it. Just keep in mind the weekends are going to be crowded there. And because of these festivals and Christmas and New Year's take up about 2/3 of the year, it's another reason why I almost never recommend that you eat in Future World during those months if you can help it. Really, the only thing you should be doing at Future World, if you're there during those time of year, is to eat a light breakfast. Okay, so let's talk about eating in Future World. But my main tip is do not eat in Future World if you can help it. There are way better options at Epcot. There's only a handful of places to eat, especially around breakfast or lunch. So let's jump into it, and you'll see why I think Future World right now is a food wasteland. For breakfast and lunch, you really only have a couple of options. The first one is the Electric Umbrella, which will be closing. It's going to be refurbished. I'll talk about that I'll talk about it now. Don't go there for lunch. It's just basically fast food quality. We ate there a couple years ago. We were really desperate to eat. We were hungry. We just got off the plane. We went to Epcot. The kids didn't want to walk around or even get to the World Showcase. Right now, it's a hard pass for me. I don't know if I'll ever try it again because you'll see in a second there's way better options. For breakfast, there's basically 3 places I like to go. One is Fountain View, which, surprise, is a Starbucks. And surprise, it's over by the fountain. There's Leo barking. Not sure who he hears or sees out there. The other place to eat is Sunshine Seasons. So, for breakfast, you could go to Starbucks. I love Starbucks. You know what's there. I'm not wasting my time reviewing it. Sunshine Seasons is in the Land Pavilion, and it's a great spot for a quick service meal. The food options look and taste great. Some of the food items include food that is grown right there in Epcot. I only have 2 real issues with it. One, I think the coffee stinks. It's not Starbucks. I don't know if it's Joffrey's. I think it's gross. I know some people love it. I think it's terrible. The second problem with Sunshine Seasons is that it requires a trip to the Land Pavilion. So, if you are going on Soaring and you were smart enough and you made a late morning or early afternoon fast pass reservation of Soaring, it's a great place to get lunch or breakfast. The other place that I would recommend to you for getting something to drink and maybe a pastry is there's a kiosk. I'm going to try and describe it to you. I'm sure you'll find it. It's back at Mount Skiers, kind of on diagonal on the way over to Mission Space. They make great cappuccinos there. You could sometimes get pastries. That's a good spot if you want a quick breakfast. There's actually another place you could get breakfast, which is the Garden Grill. I'm going to talk about that in this next part, which is going to be about dinner. So dinner right now, you have two main sit-down restaurants. You have the aforementioned Garden Grill, and you have the Coral Reef. In early 2020, Disney's going to open up a third sit-down restaurant. It's going to be a space-themed restaurant. In my opinion, all three of these suffer from the same problem. If you're in Epcot around dinner time, you're most likely in the World Showcase, where the restaurants are better, or at least you were out at World Showcase eating and drinking, and then do you really want to double back towards the front of the park in Future World? And and then you might say to yourself, hey, Eric, what happens if I go park hopping and go back to Epcot? Again, if you're park hopping and you're going back to Epcot, the dinner options over in World Showcase are far superior to what's available in Future World. Yeah, if maybe you have a soaring ride and then you want to save yourself some time, I guess you could make that argument. I don't. If I'm coming back to Epcot around dinner time, I'm going in through the International Gateway, which is that entrance that you could get to from the Beach Club, Yacht Club, Boardwalk, hotels, or if you're coming from Hollywood Studios, you could take the boat there. So that's a much better option if you're park hopping. Oh my God, park hopping. However, if you're in a pinch and didn't make your restaurant reservation 6 months in advance like I like to do, then these are decent options for you. The food is actually pretty good. I don't have any issues with the food. I just have issues with doubling back and going towards Future World. There is one other place you could get quick service. Again, I don't recommend the electric umbrella. Ugh. It would be Sunshine Seasons, but again, you're doubling back into the Living with the Land Pavilion. And if you're going there, then you might as well go to the Garden Grill. So, speaking of the Garden Grill, it's on the top floor of the Land Pavilion. It features family-style character dining with Chip and Dale. Woohoo! And it's a revolving restaurant. I ate here like 10 to 15 years ago, I don't think it was 15 years, but you get the idea on our first trip. The restaurant revolves very, very slowly and shows you different scenes from the Living with the Land ride. And as I said, it features Chip and Dale. You could get breakfast, lunch, and dinner here. I've only tried dinner. It's basically family style. You get a salad, you get their grilled beef, you get a turkey breast, you get veggies, mashed potatoes, stuffing, mac and cheese, berry shortcake for dessert. It was decent. I liked it. I had fun. But as I said, due to the location and the restaurants that are available over in World Showcase, we never made it back. The other current sit-down restaurant right now is the Coral Reef. It's located in the Living in the Seas Pavilion and features beautiful views of the main tank of the aquarium. Of course, it's seafood, because guess what? It's located in the Living in the Seas Pavilion. The food is really pretty good. Just like the Garden Grill, I went there on our first trip. We enjoyed it. I never returned for the exact same reasons that I already gave for the Garden Grill. All right, so you survived the food desert wasteland of Future World, and you're ready for the World Showcase. Woohoo! So that means it's at least 11 a.m. because it usually doesn't open until then. You knew that, right? The way the World Showcase sets up, it's like a giant oval. On the left-hand side, it goes from the left: Mexico, Norway, China, Germany, Italy, America, Japan, Morocco, France, the International Gateway, the United Kingdom / England, and then Canada. The first thing you have to decide is which way you're going. Are you going to go to the left towards Mexico and eat there first, or go to the right and hit up Canada and England? Me, I usually go left. It's not that I don't love the UK and Canada. I do. It's just that I'd rather be over on that side of World Showcase around dinner time. So let's go through how I usually walk and eat my way through. Oh, wait. Walk, eat, drink my way through the World Showcase. I'm not going to spend any time in the kiosks that are there. I'm only going to talk about the 11 countries that are there consistently. And right before you have to make the decision as to which way you're going, you have a good gift shop right in front of you. Last year, we got a lot of utensils, some glasses, some other kitchen items, or some wine. It's actually a good store to hit if you want some souvenirs. And of course, they'll ship it home for you. That way, you don't have to worry about bringing it on the airplane. It's a lot easier that way. So when you buy a lot of stuff at Disney in general, ship it home, even if it's like $20. All right, I totally switched gears. You didn't know that. Thanks to the magic of editing. I'm not going to go through country by country and tell you exactly what's going on there. That's going to take too long. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take you on a walking tour of where I have to stop at when I'm at Epcot. Yeah, I might try some other places. Yeah, I might go to some new restaurants. But in generally speaking, I do not miss these spots. So these are Eric's must-see if you've never been to Epcot. And we're going to walk how I would walk through the World Showcase. As I said, your first stop is going to be Mexico. You have to stop at Mexico. There's a margarita bar. I wouldn't waste my time there unless you're really thirsty. I usually look for the photo opportunities with Donald Duck or other members of the Three Caballeros. But if you get past that, you head into the pyramid. There's awesome shopping. On the right-hand side is this great tequila bar. If there's seating in there, you could bring your kids with you. If not, you're at the bar and you have to be 21. They have snacks. That's a good spot to hit. And on the left-hand side is a slow-moving boat ride, the Grand Fiesta Tour. I like to go on that as long as the line's not too long. But you have, in general, inside the pyramid, great shopping opportunities, and you have a great sit-down restaurant. We usually eat there. That restaurant's a San Angel Inn. I like to get dinner. I've had lunch there. It's pretty good, solid sit-down Mexican food. You got the volcano. You got the river. It's a great spot. Enjoy Mexico. After Mexico, it's Norway. That used to be a must-stop for me. I don't, unless you have little kids that are into Frozen. They really Frozen-fied or Frozenification of Norway. It's not a must-stop for me anymore. You do have the old Maelstrom ride there as long as you can get on that with a decent wait time. Otherwise, pass it by. They do have a decent bakery. I do like getting the spoon bread at Norway. But right now, we're not spending as much time in Norway as we used to in the past. Up next is China. The food's pretty good in China, but you get it. It's Chinese takeout, and there's also a decent sit-down restaurant. But we like to do the shopping in China. We could spend a lot of time. It's also a good place for you to get a photo op with Mulan. But then, heading out of that, you're coming up to a must-stop country, which is Germany. Germany has two places to eat besides, you get your beer and pretzels outside. It's got the beer garden restaurant. It's a sit down. It's a buffet. It's a hot and cold buffet. They have a band playing inside. You get to drink out of a 1 liter glass stein for beer. Did I mention 1 liter stein of beer? Sadly, I've never been back there since our first vacation. Nothing against the food. I thought the food was pretty good, but the family thinks that they could get better German food out where we live, so we've never gone back. But if you don't have any good German restaurants, always want to try it. I highly suggest the Beer Garden. If you just want a snack, which is what we usually do, you go outside. It's called, I think it's called Summerfest. Yeah, it is called Summerfest. You could get some worse. You get the Black Forest chocolate cake. You get different beers. There's also great shopping. There's a quote unquote wine cave where you get to test some German wines. There's good shopping. There's a Werther's chocolate store. You also have Steiff stuffed animals, Haribo chews. You get the idea. If you like German things, there's good shopping. Oh, and also outside, there's a large outdoor model train that's continually running. You'll also have some public restrooms if you need a little bit of a break from everything else you've done. You don't want to try and sneak your way into one of the restaurants when nobody's looking. But Germany is a must stop for us. After Germany, it's Italy. Everybody loves Italy. I prefer it for dinner. There's two places to eat. There's Via Napoli, and then there's Tutto Italia. Think of Tutto Italia as your more upscale Italian restaurant. I ate there a few years back. We had a date night. It was actually pretty good, so I do recommend it. But my favorite spot, we almost always book it on every trip, is Via Napoli. They have great pizza. That's coming from a guy that could get great pizza all the time in New York and New Jersey. The pizza there is awesome. The pasta dishes are great. The salad's good. It's a good price for meals. The whole family can eat there. It's kid friendly. The only word of caution I would give you is that it is open seating, inside, so it does get a little loud, but that's okay because you're bringing your whole family, right? There's also good shopping in Italy. There's a place to taste Italian wines. So Italy is definitely a must stop. The next country is almost always a hard pass for us. It's America. I don't really see the need to go there. I'm sure the food's fine. I ate there a few years back. It was more cafeteria, your standard hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken fingers. I wasn't really interested. I know they're trying to change some of the food, especially the outdoor marketplace, the kiosks. However, across from America is where the outdoor seating is for concerts and shows. It's a small amphitheater. You get the idea. It's for an Eat to the Beat series. That's where they'll have that if you're interested in seeing one of those bands that I talked about earlier. The only spot that you might want to hang out in America is the America Adventure movie or animatronics movie show showcasing the birth and growth of America. It's a well done show. It's a Disneyfication of the story of America. If it's hot or you're tired of walking and you need a break, it's actually a good show. I don't suggest you see that every single time, but it's a good place to kick back and enjoy, 10 or 15 minutes of a really good Disney version of the birth and the growth of the United States of America. Dun, 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 dun. Next up after Italy is Japan. There's some places to eat in Japan. There's actually a new restaurant. We don't normally eat in Japan. I do like to get the frozen beer for one of the kiosks. It's on the left-hand side, just as you're approaching Japan. It's a little stand. You can get some sushi there. But I usually get the frozen beer. That's pretty cool. We love the shopping. It's a huge shopping exhibit. Towards the back, they have all sorts of weird frozen fish and frozen shrimp, freeze-dried shrimp, freeze-dried squid, some other weird Japanese foods that you may not normally see. So we do like that. There's also a sake bar. We do a lot of shopping in Japan. Unfortunately, we don't do any of the sit-down meals. I think they're going to be fine. It's just that, again, we can get good Japanese food out in New York, New Jersey area. We never wanted to pay to sit down in Japan. But if you're missing that, you want to try it, I think it would be great. Next up is Morocco. We do a lot of shopping in Morocco. We like to walk around. My daughter will usually get a henna tattoo on the right-hand side. There's two places to eat. I've eaten in both of them. It's the Marrakesh, that's a sit-down restaurant, and Spice Road. Both of them are very good. If for some reason you missed out on getting some of the better restaurants in Epcot and you need a dining reservation spot, try the Moroccan restaurants. They're really pretty good. It's mostly around some meat and rice kind of dishes. And I think it's very much underrated It's solid food. It's just people, I guess, don't want to try it because it's Moroccan and they're afraid. But really, it's mostly grilled meats. You're going to be just fine if you need to eat there. And then past Morocco was France, and that's the other problem, right? With Morocco, it's sandwiched between France and America, or really Italy, because that's really probably the last country that I stopped at. Oh, here comes Leo. In France, there's tons of places to eat. Chefs de France, Monsieur Paul. And there's also, all the way in the back is the boulangerie or something like that. I don't know how to say that. There's great shopping in France. I'll let you know about the sit-down restaurants. I forget where we have a dinner reservation in September, but we're going to try it out, and I can let you know what I think. There's also great photo opportunities. There's, of course, wine and champagne. There's crepes. There's ice cream. I mean, if you didn't eat in Morocco and you're hungry, France is where you're going to go. I highly suggest the counter service. It's all the way in the back in the shopping. So you go all the way to the back of France. You'll see the movie. The movie's called Impressions de France. We've watched it a bunch of times. I actually think it's a pretty decent movie. But to the left of that, you buy ice cream, and you'll keep going, and then you go in the back corner through the shop. There's great counter service there. You can get things to eat. You can get cheese. You can get sandwiches. You get bakery dishes. If you still have room by the time you hit France, this is a must-stop for you. Also, you could take pictures in front. I almost forgot that, the Eiffel Tower. And then in the back corner, as you're heading over the bridge back towards the UK, which is to the right, to the left, is the International Gateway opening. That's where you want to come if you're coming from Hollywood Studios or one of the hotels. The next country up, which is always a must-stop for us, is the UK. There's, again, great shopping. There's also music. In the back of the garden, you can get your picture taken with Alice if you time it correctly, and also Mary Poppins. There's the Rose and Crown Pub, where we always stop to get something to drink. You could get the fish and chips. You could either get that inside the sit-down restaurant, the Rose and Crown, or you can get it outside. The fish and chips are great. The UK/England is always a must-stop for us, and sometimes we do like to eat dinner there. It's also a good place to watch the fireworks. And the final country in our tour of the World Showcase is Canada, also a must-stop for us. The beer is great. They have a little small outdoor arena where you can see shows. There's good shopping. It's beautiful. You're walking up in mountains with waterfalls. I know they're fake mountains, but it's really pretty cool. There's also the classic steak restaurant, which is Le Cellier. You definitely need an advanced dining reservation for that restaurant. Even with that, in the height of the season, you might be waiting. We always enjoy that. We get the cheese stew, you get some steak, you get great desserts. I also love getting the Bloody Marys at Le Cellier. So Le Cellier is definitely a must-stop if you've never eaten there before, but you will need a 6-month advanced dining reservation for it. And that's it. That's episode 9. We made it. I don't know if I'm going to have a part 3. But that would be more details. I was actually working on that, and I ditched it, as I said earlier. But we talked about the festivals. We talked about how you should avoid eating in Future World if at all possible. And I gave you my top spots to hit when you're in the World Showcase. That was a lot of information. I hope you got something out of it. I'll come back with episode 10. I can't believe I'm getting to 10. Not sure what I'm going to do, but I am going to Disney in about 10 days as of this recording, so possibly you'll talk about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So again, thanks for listening. Thanks for going on this ride. I'll talk to you soon.